Hello, marvelous mathematicians. Welcome to Lesson 31, Session 2. We are going to develop comparing quadrilaterals. Read and try to solve the problem below. Is a square a rectangle? Is a rectangle a square? So let's look at this square. Does it meet the requirements of a rectangle? And let's look at this rectangle. Does it meet the rules for a square? Okay, so let's think about what we do know. So if you can, pause the video for a minute and write down everything that you know about a square, and then write down everything that you know about a rectangle. When you get done, come back. Okay, so what you should have noticed is that for a rectangle, there are attributes of a rectangle. Remember, attributes are ways to describe something. So attributes are things like sides and angles. So what do I notice about a rectangle? A rectangle has 4 right angles. Remember, right angles are corners, and we've got 4 of them. What else do we know? They have opposite sides that are parallel and the same length. Notice that the top is parallel to the bottom. That means they'll never touch. They're always the same distance apart. And they are the same length. The same thing is said about the sides. Our sides are the same length. They are the same distance apart. Our 2 lines are parallel. They'll never touch. For our square, what are the attributes of our square? How can we describe our square? It also has 4 right angles. Notice that. It also has opposite sides that are parallel and the same length. My top and bottom are the same length. They're the same distance apart. And my sides are also the same length, and they're the same distance apart. What do we also notice about our square? We notice that our square, all 4 sides are the same length. Okay, if you don't have these written down, then take the time to go ahead and do that. Let's go to page 694. Okay, explore different ways to understand comparing quadrilaterals. We have our square. Is our square a rectangle? And we have our rectangle. Is our rectangle a square? Picture it. You can use a drawing to compare quadrilaterals. All quadrilaterals have 4 sides and 4 angles. Notice our square has 4 right angles, 2 pairs of parallel sides, and 4 sides the same length. In our rectangle, we have 4 right angles, 2 pairs of parallel sides, right here, and 2 pairs of opposite sides the same length. Kind of the same thing we had on the other side of the paper. They also used to model it. They used a table. You can use a table to compare quadrilaterals. Notice that here we have the shape, a square and a rectangle. Then we check off what they have. Do they have 4 sides and 4 angles? Yes. Yes. Are there 4 right angles? Yes. And yes for the rectangle. Are there 2 pairs of parallel sides? For a square, yes. For a rectangle, yes. 2 pairs of opposite sides that are the same length. Yep, the square has that. Does the rectangle? Yes, it does. It has the 2 long are the top and bottom, and the short sides are the sides. This is our tricky one. 4 sides that are the same length. A square has 4 sides that are the same length, but a rectangle only has that sometimes, not always. Okay, so we're going to use this information to answer the questions on the back side. Page 695. Connect it. You will use the problems from the previous page to help you understand how to compare quadrilaterals. What is an attribute of a square that is not an attribute of every rectangle? Let's go back here. What did we check off for squares that we didn't check off for the rectangles? They don't have 4 sides that are the same length. Not all the time. Okay, so some rectangles do not have 4 sides that are the same length. Okay, squares always have 4 equal sides. Four sides that are the same length. That was a lot to write. Okay, so some rectangles do not have 4 sides that are the same length. Squares always have 4 sides that are the same length. Okay, number 2. Does every rectangle have all the attributes of a square? Does every rectangle have all the attributes of a square? Nope. Sometimes it does not have 4 equal sides. So we would put no. Does every square have all the attributes of a rectangle? Let's look at that. So these are the attributes of a rectangle. Does a square have every attribute of a rectangle? Yes, it does. Is every square a rectangle? Yes. Every square has the attributes of a rectangle. Remember, a rectangle has to have 4 right angles and 2 sets of parallel lines that are the same length. So a square has all the attributes of a rectangle, and it has 4 equal sides. Is every rectangle a square? No. Sometimes a rectangle can be a square if it has 4 sides the same length. Okay. Sometimes a rectangle can be a square if it has 4 sides the same length, but not all rectangles. Have 4 equal sides. Okay, so let's look at our reflect. Look back at your Try It, Strategies by Classmates, and Picture It and Model It. Which models or strategies do you like best for comparing quadrilaterals? Remember, you can draw the shapes and then just check them visually. Use your eyes and figure out what makes them the same and what makes them different. Or you can make a table like they did here. And you can organize the attributes and check off the things that are the same. So go ahead and write down, what is your favorite way to compare quadrilaterals? Do you like to draw the shapes, or would you like to look at a table? When you're done, turn to page 696. Okay, use what you just learned to solve these problems. Circle all the quadrilaterals below that are squares. Okay, so we have to find the quadrilaterals that are squares. That means they have to meet all the requirements of a rectangle, and they have to have 4 equal sides. Is this a square? Notice that I have 4 equal sides. 4 right angles. I have 2 sets of parallel lines, and all 4 sides are the same length. So yes, this is a square. How about this one? I have 4 right angles. I have 2 sets of parallel lines. The top and the bottom are parallel, same length. My sides are parallel and the same length. But what do we notice about this? It does not have all 4 sides the equal length. So no, this is not a square. Okay, let's look at this shape. Okay, does it have 4 right angles? No, it does not have 4 right angles. So this isn't even a rectangle. And how about this shape? What do you notice here? We do have 4 right angles. Do we have 2 sets of parallel lines? We've got a set here, and we've got a set here. And what do we notice about the length of all of them? They are the same. So this is a square. Okay, number 8. One way to define a trapezoid is a quadrilateral with exactly 1 pair of parallel sides. Draw a trapezoid with 2 right angles. Okay, so there's a couple of things we have to do here. A trapezoid has to have 4 sides, and it will have 1 pair of parallel sides. So let's draw our parallel sides first. Remember, parallel sides have to be 2 lines that will never ever touch. They're always the same distance apart. Now, when we draw this, if I make these the same length, I'm going to end up with a rectangle, and I don't want a rectangle. I want a trapezoid. So that means I need to make one a little bit longer than the other one. Okay, so I have 1 pair of parallel sides. If I had stopped here, I would have had to draw parallel lines, and I don't want to do that because I only want 1 pair of parallel lines. So I drew 1 set. Now they also want us to draw a trapezoid with 2 right angles. So that means one side does have to have right angles. I have to make corners. Okay, there's my right angles. Now, for this to be a quadrilateral, I do have to match my sides. So I'm going to draw a line. And notice that's why this is not a rectangle. Notice I do not have a second set of lines that are parallel. If I take my toothpicks and I lay them down, notice that my 2 sides will eventually run into each other. So they are not always the same distance apart. These are not parallel. So we have 1 set of parallel lines, and then we have our other set which are not parallel. So this is our trapezoid. It's also possible that you could have drawn it this way. Notice that I still have my right angles. I still have my parallel sides. And that works. There's lots of different ways we could have drawn this. Okay, number 9. Circle all the quadrilaterals that are rectangles. Okay, remember, rectangles have 4 equal sides. Nope, sorry, 4 right angles. Let's look for right angles. Okay, our first shape has 4 right angles. And remember, we have to have 2 sets of parallel lines. There's 1 set. There's another set. Okay, is this a rectangle? It is. Okay, let's look at this shape. Oh, this looks like what? What did we just draw? This one looks like that trapezoid. So let's look. Do we have 4 right angles? We've got 1, 2, and these are not right angles. So this is not a rectangle. How about this shape? Well, do we have our 4 right angles? We do. Do we have 2 sets of parallel lines? Here's 1 set. The top and bottom are parallel. How about our sides? Are they parallel? They are. So is this a rectangle? Yes, it is. What's special about this rectangle? It has 4 equal sides. It is also a square. So this is a rectangle and a square. Okay, how about this shape right here? What do we notice? There are 4 right angles. What else do you notice? We have parallel sides that are the same length. Our top and bottom are parallel, and they're the same length. What do we notice about the sides? They're also parallel. They're never going to touch. And they are also the same length. So yes, this is a rectangle. Okay, we are finished with session 2's lesson. And now it is your turn to go to the practice page. You are going to practice comparing quadrilaterals on page 697 and 698. Do the work on your own and then come back and watch video 2 to see your solutions.